So there we have it. We rode, I look at me, I can't even talk. We rode a pond wheel horse Rideaway Senior today, and it's ours. We kept it. It's right there over in a barn. And then I came out to the garage, and I don't even know what to do right now because it's like none of this other stuff really matters as much as that. But we still have exciting stuff. We have exciting things to work on, and yeah, this screen is still cracked. One of these days, maybe I'll work on a fix an iPad video, but I've got something else that's not near as exciting as a Rideaway Senior, but still pretty cool. Check this out. We have, I guess you could say, a logo or a brand here at Pullstart Stables. Thank you to Vinyl Guy, Terry, for such a sweet decal. We got a funky odd color that will fit perfectly with Joe, and plenty of other ones that will work with the rest of our actual red tractors. No, this will not end up on the Senior. That thing's too perfect. And no, we have not named it yet. My wife has asked for no input, that she needs to come up with a name herself. I was thinking the old man, but I haven't told her that. So it's time to come out with that and stick it on some tractors. But we can't forget Frank. And there's a lot of things out here that I want to be working on, but Frank has been neglected since May or June, whenever it was that we were plowing our garden. So I think Frank needs some loving. I don't know when I'll be able to get to tear it down and rebuild the engine. It does run just fine right now, just smokes a ton. But the problem can easily be solved with what's in one of these bags. I couldn't remember the size I needed, so I grabbed 3 1/4 and 3 1/2 cap screws, and these go into Frank's hubs. Let me explain. The lighting is pretty poor back here, but inside these axles right here are some David Bradley hubs, and those David Bradley hubs fit over the wheel horse axles, the 1 1/8" axles, but there was really no way to secure them. So I did what any backyard hobby junk guy would do and just drilled through them and put some bolts in place. But because the shape of those David Bradley hubs is not perfectly parallel, they've got some taper to them, the grade 5 or maybe less bolts ended up snapping. So I'm going to basically use these as shear pins and get those all aligned and push through, and maybe just double nut them. I think they'll work pretty good. Speaking of Vinyl Guy's awesome work doing custom logos, maybe one of these days, like tonight, I should clean this thing up and do it right, because this is Frank. And now that we're in the good light, you can see these hubs, and they were on a walk-behind model. So those little slots right there, those little oval slots, where's my finger? Right there. Those little slots right there, they had on the other side little fingers, kind of like a recoil, and so they would always ratchet. But for a differential mechanism, you could freewheel the inside by just steering that two-wheel tractor that walked behind, and the inside would ratchet, and that's what was going on there. So we've got a 15-inch big wheel tractor, and it gets dwarfed by the 16-inch bigger wheel tractor. For reference, those front tires are 12s, and 12-inch wheels is what all the small ones run on the back. So that's just pretty cool. Now, if you recall Frank is a conglomerate of many different tractors, and he wears his scars with quite a bit of pride. And this was not my doing. I did all the fab work, and these are all really smooth. But my choice was going to e-tank all of this and clean it up and paint it. You can tell that this was hand brushed at one point and hand painted. It's got scars and stars and stripes and burn marks and different color paint. And Mrs. P, she just said, you know what, we should clear coat this. And that panel right there is supposed to have a seat latch, and this piece is supposed to have a seat latch. I welded those all up and ground them smooth. And I think for some reason this one, we have this custom panel. It says, this is Pullstart's Frank 1073 custom wheel horse. And this is going to go right there. And it's going to cover up all that fab work. And I kind of think I could probably trim that. I keep that black outline, but still keep some of that fab work. That might be what I do. Now, obviously, there was never a 1073. That's something we made up. So we have a custom serial number, custom model number, and all of this print is 60s font. So the whole idea was, what would Wheelhorse have done if they would have built a tractor with round hood and a big block automatic back in '63? How would they have done it? And that's kind of where we came out with this one. Still have the dash, and to do that I need to remove the gauge and the throttle and choke cables, but I did manage to get the control sticker on and the model and serial number, and then I threw a horse head over on this corner. I know that if I do one over here, it's just going to melt off, so there's really no point. Well, that side wasn't broken, but you could easily see how it could have broken. So hopefully with that heavier duty black oxide bolt, that stress won't get to it. I also, instead of cranking it down tight against the profile of the hub, I just pounded that bolt in. There's probably an 1/8 inch of play, and then I double nutted it real tight on the other side. That should do just fine. Here you can see where I drilled the hole and where it's slipping on the axle. You really don't get a whole lot of action when that's doing that in the field. But it's lined up. I should be able to drop that bolt right in and do the same to this side as I did the other side. And there we go. It just dropped right in. I snugged it up and double nutted it and tightened that second nut real good. And that should give me plenty of good use now. I like how these wheels just have the 3 bolts. That just seems to me like it's got some uniqueness to it. If I ever need to, I can just use some of the 953 hubs that I've acquired and use a standard wheel horse hub with a 15-inch wheel and just swap them out with these tires. But for people that notice those at shows and whatnot, it's just something to talk about. It's a conversation piece. And for the sake of it, if I do wreck these axles, I've got more. And I have a feeling that these are going to last a long time for the amount of use that this gets. Now, this is a Charger 12 rear end. So this is supposed to have a limited slip. It will let it slip a little bit, but when I was cranking it down, it bit hard and stayed locked pretty well. So I can say that that rear end is working. It'd probably benefit from a new spring, but same thing. This is more of a novelty piece. It doesn't get worked very hard. If anything, we'll drag a disc or something with it. It works just fine. Alright, now I have this voltmeter to remove, and guess what? I'm not looking forward to it. It's just a pain in the butt, but it does need to come off to be able to get that last important decal on. You can see this stuff. This is that PC7 part A and B, and that's a metal filler, hard as metal, millable, machinable, stuff like that. It's pretty awesome stuff. I've used it on a few of my projects and have always enjoyed the outcome. So if you ever need it for any reason, please consider it. It's good. That's what's going on under the dash. There are wire connections, and behind them, I know it's challenging to see with the glare, but behind them there are nuts that need to be removed to be able to get that rectangle clamp off, to be able to get some set nuts off, to be able to get those wiring pieces off. It's not fun or easy. And there, just like that, this thing is decaled up, and that is awesome. Now, Putt Putt was my first resto mod, and this is right where I put the name on the side of the hood, and that's kind of what I'm thinking for the Frank decals, because it's the same font, but I don't know what to do about the stars and stripes. I don't much like covering up them colors. So what I'm going to end up doing is saving those for later and see what Mrs. P thinks of them. Maybe we'll just play around until we find a good spot for them. Alrighty, that is enough for a night, I'd say. Maybe I'll go find a battery and see if this thing will fire up one of these days. Thanks for watching.